Hi, welcome. My name is Kayla, and this is an episode of an Average Knitter podcast. I'm a little right now because my kids are over playing at the neighbors, and I thought, this would be the perfect time to record another episode. It's been like exactly 2 months since the last one, so I really want to share a little bit of an update with you all, but I gotta hurry because they're going to be home soon. And then I was trying to figure out what was the right thing to sit on and how do we get anyways, you know how it is. But hi, here we are. I am freezing cold. I opened the curtains to let in lots of natural light, but I live in Wisconsin in the United States, and the temperature outside is -4 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Like, it's not even above 0 degrees. And it's a little bit windy too. So it's beautiful. I can see tons of snow outside. It's just gorgeous. But it's cold. So I turned the heat up a little bit. I have a blanket right here. I'm wearing a sweater, a wool sweater. I talked about this one, I think, on my first episode. This is Andrea Mowry's Weekender, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. I have had so much fun the last few weeks. Just listening to any and every knitting podcast that I could find. Love watching people's year in review videos, things that they've made, their plans, things that are coming up for the new year. So fun. I have a few life updates to share, like this, a couple of finished objects, and then a couple of plans coming up for the rest of winter. So updates. The last time I talked to you, I had just finished running a half marathon in Disney World, and it was so fun. I'm also a teacher, so Thanksgiving we had a little bit of break, spent it with family. Beginning of December, I'm a music teacher, so we had concerts. Our December was very busy with concerts, and then I caught COVID. Thankfully, it was very mild, and I felt better quickly, but worked really hard to protect the rest of my family and keep them healthy. And it worked. No one else in my family tested positive. They all stayed healthy, which was a huge blessing. We got to Christmas. Well, first we had a wonderful December together. It was busy, concerts at school, me getting over sickness, baking, decorating the house, all of those things. My husband tries to watch as many Christmas and holiday movies as he can in December, and we like to watch most of them together as a family. So lots and lots of movie watching. We traveled to be with family for Christmas, and then the rest of my immediate family got sick, and that was such a bummer. So thankfully I was immune, and I could, kind of keep the house going and take care of everyone. And their sickness was mild as well, so that was good too. But we had a big chunk of time where we had to cancel plans, or we couldn't spend time with people that we wanted to for the holidays. That was a little bit of a bummer, but we've come out on the other side. We just had a rescheduled family Christmas this past weekend, and that was so good to get together with everyone. But now it's January 16th, and I have a lot of decorations to take down because we wanted to leave them up until our last family celebration was done, and now it's January 16th. So I've started taking a few things to the basement today, but I have been slow going because of this. It's not as bad as it looks. I had surgery yesterday for something called trigger thumb. I've actually had it since I was a very little girl. My thumb, as long as I can remember, has been crooked. You can't see it, obviously, because it's wrapped up, but my thumb was always this kind of a shape. And if I used it enough, I played flute in middle school and high school. If I played flute long enough, it would stretch back a little bit farther with a big click sound, but it never went back as far as it should. But it wasn't a big deal. I could still do everything I needed to do, play piano and type, and it wasn't a big deal. So I never did anything about it. And yeah, just didn't really care until this fall. It started to hurt, specifically right here, and I had a hard time. It didn't hurt while I was knitting, strangely, but opening a jar of spaghetti sauce or trying to pick something up, it started to really hurt. So I made an appointment and got some x-rays, and the doctor said, well, everything looks good, on the x-rays, but you have a trigger thumb. Like, you have all the classic symptoms, which I had guessed because I have a relative whose child had just gotten diagnosed with the same thing and had surgery and is doing fantastic now. But as she described what led them to that diagnosis and surgery, I went, oh my gosh, like, that's what I've had my whole life, but I just didn't realize it. And I didn't seek out treatment until it started to hurt. So I had surgery yesterday. It went very well and very quick, but I have to keep it bandaged for a couple more days. And I cannot knit because look, it doesn't work. It doesn't work right now. And I also can't, I can play piano and I can type. I just can't use my thumb right now. Can you imagine playing piano? And this is all, anyways, you don't need to think about that. You're not here to listen to me talk about piano. But I am really hopeful that things will look good and feel good when I take this off in a couple days. It doesn't even hurt right now. It's still just a tiny bit numb. But yeah, there's no pain or discomfort right now, which I'm really thankful for. Okay, yarn and knitting. I was trying to hurry and finish up projects before I had surgery on Monday, because I knew that it might be a little while before I could knit again. I finished my socks. So one sock was finished a long, long time ago, and I just didn't get around to the second because I had other stuff to do. This is Crazy Sock Lady's vanilla socks. I purchased the pattern, but I also watched her free video tutorial on YouTube. I love that she has, marks for each part of the pattern, and you can skip just what you need to. I would watch it at 0.75 playback speed so I could follow along, and just so helpful. So I finished the first one, started on the second one. Again, as we were driving to visit family over the holidays, it was the perfect time to knit. But I realized, so, I do the cuff and I shortened the cuff. I shortened this a little bit, which I talked about in a previous video, and I hope you can see, but right before you get to the heel, you do almost a ribbing pattern right here, and it has a slip at the beginning of each row. And I was knitting it and I was following the instructions and watching the video tutorial, and I thought, I don't remember doing that on the first one. So here's what it looks like from the back. And sure enough, I picked up my finished one and went, I didn't do that. And I thought and thought and thought. So I finished it the way it was supposed to be, kept going, and I finished the whole sock. And I had finished this sock and tried it on, and I thought it was great. And then I finished this one and went, oh, this little area right here, it hugs the back of your heel. It helps the sock fit even better. And I went back and realized on the first one, I hadn't read the instructions carefully enough. And so I was slipping the first stitch on each row, but then I would knit straight across or purl straight across. And if you've knit these before, or if you follow the instructions, that is not what you're supposed to do. So then I went back to sock number one and I ripped out all the way to here and started again. So that was a bummer, but I couldn't have worn two mismatched socks, like one that hugs your ankle and one that doesn't. Like, that's not going to work. So it was a bummer, but it's fine. And they're done now. And as soon as this video is done, I'm going to put them on. And I am so excited. Yeah, they're fantastic. This is a sock yarn, I think from Shirsty Cat Designs. I'll find it in previous show notes and link it in these show notes. But they're done. They're done. I'm so thankful. Okay. I am going to insert a picture here because my daughter is currently wearing the sweater that I finished, and she's playing at the neighbor's house, but I took some pictures this morning. I finished another Andrea Mowry So Faded Pint Sized sweater for my daughter. She picked out all the yarn herself. I made it in the largest size that the pattern offers because when I made it for her several years ago, I made it just right, and it only fit her for about a year because she was just growing so fast. It was no fault of the pattern. She was just growing. So I thought, I'm going to make the biggest size, which is just it'll be a little bit big on her, just a little bit. But it ended up being even bigger. Like, it's a very comfortable, like, slouchy sweatshirt style, I think, because I didn't check my gauge. I looked back at my notes from the first two Faded Pint Sized sweaters I had made. And of course I use different yarn for all of them because they're, you know, they have the faded effect. But I just didn't swatch with this yarn because I figured, well, the other two, I used the recommended needle size and it worked out great. So I'm just going to start, you know, and it doesn't have to be exact. Well, I could have gone a whole needle size smaller. This sweater is totally fine. My daughter loves it. You'll see the picture. It's fabulous. It looks great. The fabric is slightly more open than it could be. And in retrospect, I could have gone down a whole needle size. But it's okay because she loves it. She's wearing it. It's warm for a very cold day. And now it's going to last for even longer. So after I was about halfway through the sweater and I was kind of holding it up going, man, this seems like really, like I wanted it to be wide, but this seems really wide. Then I checked my gauge. I don't remember. I think I was getting maybe 17, no, let me think. I think I was getting maybe like 16 stitches per inch where it called for 17 stitches per inch. Like I was getting one less stitch per inch, which means my gauge was slightly larger than it was supposed to be. So when I measured the chest laying flat, I think maybe it was supposed to be like 15.5 inches wide, and it was like 17 inches wide before blocking. But again, it's okay because it's beautiful. I'm the only one who notices. I'm the only one who cares. She's wearing it right now. She's super pumped. So not a big deal, but like a learning experience for me. Even if I've made this pattern before, I could still check my gauge. Or maybe not, because again, she's going to wear this hopefully for like the next 2 or 3 winters. So maybe it turned out for the best. So again, just thoughts from me. I linked this yarn in the last video and I'll link it again down below. I found this at one of our local yarn shops. I think I found it at Kaleidoscope Fibers in Cambridge, Wisconsin. But this is from the brand Knit the Holidays. Knit the Holidays has an Etsy page, but that's not where I got this yarn from. It was in our local yarn shop. I went to the Etsy site and looked around, and there's a few negative reviews about shipping or the ordering process. So just an FYI, I got this in store, but there is also an Etsy shop. I didn't use the Etsy shop though. So just FYI. So my daughter chose all of these. 2 of them were alpaca sock yarn, which was 70% superwash fine Highland alpaca and 30% nylon, 4-ply, and loved that. So we used the colors Coastal Sunrise and Pink Lady. Aren't those fun names? And then you'll see in the picture the middle color, which I loved. I mean, it looked like it had sprinkles. So fun. The middle one was actually there. I'm not sure. It's not circled on here. But it wasn't alpaca sock. So it was 70% superwash merino wool and 30% nylon. So different, but still from the same company. We found that yarn to be a little bit coarse and scratchy. And every company is different, but I have knit with superwash merinos that are very soft. Oh, so soft. And this one wasn't. It was just like, it wasn't thicker because it was fingering weight, but it was a little bit rougher and not as soft. So as soon as I had gotten a little bit done on the sweater, I went, okay, stop and think. Can I keep using this? Because the alpaca sock at the top and bottom of the sweater was very soft. And my daughter, felt it and went, oh, this is so great. But the middle one wasn't. And I thought, oh my goodness, next to her skin, this is not going to be good. But she almost always wears t-shirts or tank tops underneath her sweaters. And we talked about that. And I said, hey, this yarn, isn't as soft, which, like maybe it felt that way when it was in a skein, but it's like once you start knitting with it, you really realize. And she said, well, Mom, I don't care. Like, I'm going to wear a t-shirt underneath. I'm not going to feel it. And it's right over her tummy. So I said, awesome. But then when I got to the sleeves, I actually substituted a leftover something that I had in my bag of fingering weight leftover somethings that was similar enough in color because I didn't want it to touch her bare arms. So the sleeves look just a tiny bit different, but again, it matches the overall effect of the fade. So I'm really thankful for that. I love how it turned out. I made the ribbing all over the sweater a little bit taller or a little bit longer, especially at the collar, because the sweater turned out bigger than I anticipated. If I had just made the 3/4 inch collar as written in the pattern, it would have been really baggy up here. So we made that just a little bit taller. Maybe it was about an inch total. So it blocked out beautifully. She's wearing it today. You saw a picture. Yeah, so special. So now I get to add these little bits and pieces. This one is so soft. And this is left over from the socks. Add them to my bag. Yeah, super fun. Oh my gosh, I cast something else on and I didn't bring it over here. I'll be right back.
Hello again. Hi, so this is Kayla from 3 hours in the future. I got the video all uploaded and I started editing it and realized this whole middle section of the video where I tell you about my new cast on and then a project I'm hoping to start, it's all blurry and out of focus. I got up from the table to let my kids in the front door and I came back to the table and the camera didn't focus for like 10 minutes of talking. And then I left the table again to, go do something. Oh, no. I first left the table to get the project and then I left the table again to get my kids and came back and sat down and then I was in focus again. So this is the Reader's Digest condensed version of everything I said before that I'm going to quick tell you now. When I was sick, I decided to use some leftover fingering weight yarn from my Andrea Mowry Find Your Fade shawl. I think, I'd have to double check, but I think it's one of my Madelinetosh yarns. And I started a Mussleburgh hat. Did I say that right? So I don't know if any of you watch. I love watching AKA Nora Knits. I'm Nora, and this is also known as Nora Knits. She had a funny episode where she talked about starting the Mussleburgh hat, and then someone commented and said she wasn't pronouncing it correctly, and now she always has this little video clip that pops up to pronounce it correctly. Anyways, I cast that on when I was sick, thinking I would have lots of time and would get really far. And I did not have lots of time because I just wanted to close my eyes and rest. So I started it. I actually started it and I didn't read the directions carefully. I didn't put the stitch markers in the right spots. I was trying to do it on like DPNs and I should have done it on circular. Anyways, I started and it looked terrible and I had to start over and do it a little bit differently and now it's fine. So I'd really like to work more on that. If you're familiar with Nitty Natty, she has some videos talking about the different kinds of hats that she's made and how to tweak them and where to put color changes, and it just sounds super cool. So I want to go back and watch those and maybe do a second color in my hat as well. It gets cold and very, very windy here. And I have knit hats for myself before and I've knit them out of wool yarns, but they're either scratchy or they're not warm enough. And I know that the Mussleburgh will be, because it'll be wool and it'll be 2 thicknesses and it's a thicker fabric. So there's just less room for the wind to get in. I think mine is on 4mm needles right now. And mine's on 4mm. And I know people have knit them on much smaller needles for an even like thicker, denser fabric. Mine is super comfortable right now. I really like how it feels when I'm knitting it. Well, not right now because nothing's happening right now. So I'm going to stick with that. Yeah. And see how it goes. So the project that I have, well, I haven't, I'm hoping to start. the Andrea Mowry Weekender Crew. You can see this is the regular Weekender, and I love it. I wear it so much. But I've got a crew neck t-shirt on underneath it. Number one, because I made this out of Berroco Ultra Alpaca, and it can get a tiny bit itchy, to me, a tiny bit itchy. I would love something that was even softer, that I felt I could wear without a t-shirt underneath. Like I always have to have at least a tank top or t-shirt underneath this. And I know if it were a crew neck, I would get even more wear out of it than I do this one. It would just be lovely. So I spent a ton of time thinking and looking online at different yarn ideas, and I thought I had settled on one. I didn't want to spend too much on this sweater. I wanted this to be a little bit more affordable than some of the other things I've made. So I was hoping to spend for sure less than $80, but I was thinking like $50 to $75 in the dollar range for yarn. There was I like Knit Picks. Everything I've gotten from Knit Picks I like. There was nothing on there that appealed to me. It has to be DK weight. There was nothing there that appealed to me. I have nothing DK in my stash. I don't really have a stash. I buy for each project that I make, and once in a while I'll pick up a skein of fingering weight that is super gorgeous, but otherwise I don't have any DK weight upstairs. So looked, browsed the local yarn stores, searched Knit Picks, all this stuff. Anyways, I thought I had decided on Ella Rae Eco Tweed. I love tweed. A local yarn store, the Sow's Ear in Verona, Wisconsin, close to Madison, they had it in stock, Ella Rae Eco Tweed, and they had some colors on clearance. So one Saturday, I left my husband and kids at home watching movies, and I went and enjoyed myself looking around, and I quickly realized that the Eco Tweed was not going to be right. I didn't like how it felt at all. It wasn't soft enough. It was just no. And then I kind of froze. That decision paralysis. I had only been thinking about the Eco Tweed. What am I going to do? Thought, looked around, looked at all the DK weight yarns. They had the only thing that was remotely appealing to me and that I felt was soft enough and affordable was Berroco's Baby DK. But it was all colors that I didn't want. I love bright colors. Those are good for me, like especially bright pastels, bright spring colors. But I didn't feel like I could get away with any of these, and they just weren't what I wanted, weren't what I was hoping for. Good price. I liked the fiber makeup. Just not right. Oh, and I felt, I just couldn't make a decision. I looked at all their other Berrocos. They had Berroco, they had a worsted weight one. They had a chunky weight one, but just nothing else DK except for the baby one. And then I was looking on my phone and found Vintage DK by Berroco, which I had seen other people use for projects before, but I never had. And then I realized something. All right, I'm going to stop here because this is where the original video gets clear again. So future Kayla is saying goodbye. You're going to go back to past Kayla. She'll show you some pictures and explain everything else.
And Baroko Vintage DK is the same fiber makeup as their baby DK. It's 52% acrylic, 40% wool, 8% nylon. They just have different names, baby and the vintage DK, but the exact same fiber makeup. So I stood in front of the baby DK for a long time, like fingering it and feeling it and looking at some of the colors, but I just couldn't bring myself to buy any of the colors. But I felt confident that I could purchase the Vintage DK online and like it because I had seen the equivalent in store, if that makes sense. And I took pictures of a few of the other colorways I liked in the worsted and then went home. And I think I got this from Webs, the online store Webs, but purchased a sweater quantity of the Baroko Vintage DK. I'm really excited about this, and it's very soft. It's very soft. This is the color 21193. That doesn't help me. It has a name. It has a beautiful name. I don't know. I'll look it up and I'll put it down in the down in the show notes below. But I love it. It is so soft. It has a little bit of a heathered effect. There's like a tiny bit of a creamish, tannish in there, just a little bit. But this is going to be lovely. So again, as soon as this is working again, and I've gotten a little bit farther on this, we're going to cast on the Weekender Crew in this. And it was affordable because it's part acrylic, but that's okay. Again, I'm going to wear it a lot, and I need something that is washable and durable and that I can pick up and throw on. And yeah, so I'm really, really excited to start the Weekender Crew. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with me. I think that's all I've got. Thank you so much for watching. If you have comments or questions or just wanna chat, feel free to drop a note in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and get to know you. Yeah, and maybe in a couple months we'll talk again. Thank you so much.